Hello everyone, my name is Henrythejedi and I got some very exciting news that's gonna knock your socks off. I've got the big news that I've been announcing to you guys for the past 3 months or so. Finally, thanks to you guys' support, thanks for your visits and so forth. Today, I'm going to announce to you the availability of the great training product Adobe After Effects Unmatched Training DVD. It's on sale today, going for only $39 that you can buy to boost your productivity levels to unmatched levels of creativity. In it, you are going to find separate sections dedicated to some of the advanced topics within our favorite application in the world. And there is a trailer going on right now that you can download for free, whether you want to view it in QuickTime or Windows Media Player format. Let's have a quick analysis of what's covered on this amazing training DVD. Okay, here is what we're going to be covering. We're going to be covering very nice effects, like my favorite one here, advanced light stroke animation, where we are going to get someone painting lights as if they were drawing with their fingers. Let's have a preview of this effect quickly. By the way, to preview any of these effects, you simply go to or rather you click on the product info button, and then this should send you to somewhere where you can also access the course outline. Okay, and then in here you can see each of the chapters we are going to cover, and then you simply click on play clip button so that we can preview each of the clips on your web browser. The advanced light stroke animation effect is going to be an effect where we cover something as cool as this. Okay, we have someone here appearing to be painting lines of strokes with their own fingers, much more like the iPod commercial, you know. Cool, eh? The next one is the effect where we get an explosion. We're going to be taking a look at an effect like this one here. Woo! That was shocking. Okay, we also have the effect where we get to create a watery surface within After Effects, and we also have this amazing card wipe effect where we take a picture and then we just, we just make it 3D and we just spread it apart. This is the intermediate to advanced training DVD for you guys. In other words, it covers people of all levels, whether you're a beginner or an advanced user rather. You are going to learn, my friend. And there's another exciting news too, because I really felt like there's so much to give to you guys there. I'm giving you guys a very amazing tutorial for absolutely free for you guys to check out, and that happens to be one of my very favorite ones from the DVD right to you. It's the one in which we created a realistic fire explosion within After Effects. So you guys can simply click on the link to watch this tutorial, or you may also want to download it absolutely free. So in this way you can see for yourself what you'll be doing on the DVD, and then if you're happy with it, you can go ahead and purchase the product to support us. Okay, as one of the main elements a CG artist will always be required to do in their lifetime as a digital artist is the creation of particle systems, or rather real-life objects such as fires, flames, smokes, water, you name them. And thanks Lord, I managed to find a very good way in which to create a convincingly realistic fire in After Effects using its built-in tools alone, without the use of any third-party plugins. Okay, so what we'll be creating is something like this. So basically, here is our original image. It's just a farm. Unfortunately, there were no cars around to prove the fact that we were actually working on it. And then in After Effects we are going to create this particular fire, and then even have a pulse wave, or rather a pulse wave, which will affect the farm itself as explosion happens. And I need to bring up the fact that no animals were harmed, no animals or grass or trees were harmed during the recording of this tutorial. Okay, let's get started with it. Okay, we are going to import the file that we're going to use in our animation, and that particular file is nature 0043. That's, you can access on your extracted archive, which contains the project files for this particular tutorial. And then we are going to create a new composition Leave the settings at 720 by 576. Click OK. Change the duration to maybe, okay, a fire is one of those rapid things which happen abruptly. So we're going to leave it at 5 seconds. We might need to change it later as things go on. And then we are going to change these composition settings by going to composition settings. We are going to change its name to main fire. And then we are going to change the height from 576 to 800. Okay. And let's change its duration maybe to 15 to give it more time to burn. So this will contain our main fire happening. And then with the composition selected, we'll create a new layer by going to layer, new, solid. We're going to call it fire. Then click OK. Make sure the settings are 720 by 800. Click OK. So we're going to add the particle playground effect, which will be the particle system to control the fire. So for that, we select our fire solid. We go to effects, simulation, particle playground. What particle playground gives us is this sort of reddish dots popping like popcorns out of the screen. Of course, one might ask, but we thought we're creating fire here and all we can see is dots and so forth. Don't worry, we are going to go through each of these settings step by step. So we are going to dwell down on the cannon settings. We'll change the barrel radius to 30. Particles per second, we'll change it to 120. Direction, we'll change it to minus 317 degrees. And then the velocity will be changed to let's see, 38. Let's see what we have so far. Okay. We'll change the direction randomness to 38 rather, and then velocity to 70. And we'll change the velocity random spread to 135. And then we'll change the color by entering the values in this box here to 4F, 4F, 4F. Okay, it should give us sort of a dark gray kind of color. Click OK. Next, we'll need to position the point from which the particles will be emitted. So we are going to click on the position button and then bring it down so that the particles will be emitted from the bottom. We might need to change the direction, but we'll leave the direction at -318 for now. Okay, we need to change the particle radius to 3.5. Next, we are going to bring down the gravity settings. Since we want the particles to start from the bottom and spread all the way to the top to give the impression of an explosion or a fire rising, we need to bring down the force of the gravity to 0. So in this way, the fire can only go upwards. Now, one might ask, but this really doesn't look like fire. It's only particles spreading out. Don't worry, we will add the fieriness to it. For now, we are going to add some blurriness to it to give it thickness. So we select the fire solid, we go to Effects, Blur and Sharpen, Fast Blur, and then we change the blurriness to 15. So this will give us some sort of smoky area. If we zoom into it, we'll see what's actually happening now. So please bear in mind, we had to change the position of the cannon to the bottom of the screen so that the fire is emitted from below. Okay. With our fire solid selected, we are going to select the rectangular mask tool. This will help us in a way to composite our fire to any other footage that we might have, because it will give us proper edges around our fire elements so that it's properly composite into other objects. So we're going to select it on the timeline and then press M on the keyboard, and then let's just increase its feather and its expansion of the mask. Okay. Once that is done, we're going to composition, new composition, make a new composition, and then let's call it I don't know, fire maybe. Make sure that the width is 720 by 576. Click OK. and then drag our main fire composition onto our fire composition, and then as you can see it's sort of appearing at the bottom. So let's move it a bit up, and then we are going to apply, still working on the fire look, now we are going to apply CC particle systems to it. Okay, so we are going to select our main fire layer. We go to Effect, Simulation, CC particle system, or CC particle system 2. Okay, but what particle system does is what gives the fieriness, or rather the fieriness being the direction in which the fire will be flowing and so forth. We're going to change its birth rate to 10 and its longevity to 1.5. Okay, the birth rate of course controls the amount of particles of fire being emitted. Before we go any further, we need to apply the mesh rope effect to our composition here. So we select our layer, we go to Effect, Distort, Mesh Rope. We're going to change the rows to 5, columns to 3. You can have as many of these as you may wish, but we're going to keep the settings as here, and then we're going to move the mesh rope effect to above the CC particle system effect. What mesh rope does is sort of ropes a particular mesh to certain vertices, as you can see here, or it ropes a particular layer to certain vertices. In other words, we can always move any of these points and the mesh will move accordingly, rather will be distorted accordingly. So we're going back to our particle system and then twirl down the producer settings. What's very important here is to move the position which controls the main area from which the fire will be emitted. So we're going to click on the position button and then bring down the position to somewhere below. So if we now scrub through the timeline, that is what's happening. The fire is being emitted from the bottom of the screen. Okay, and then we're going to change the Y radius to 0, and then the X radius to 0, and then the Y radius will be changed to 7. Okay, we are now going to go to the physics properties, change animation to jet sideways. Okay, and now it appears like a jet going through space. And then we're going to change each of these settings. We'll change the velocity, which controls the speed at which the fire will be blowing, at 0.5. Inherent velocity, we'll change it to minus 3.4. The gravity, which is our main setting here, controlling especially the direction from which the fire is flowing. If we reduce the velocity now, you can see what sorts of happening. Okay, the higher it goes, we have a taller flame. It's more or less what you're looking for. But for our liking, if we increase the value to positive numbers, the fire begins to flow downwards. If we bring it to negative values, the fire is flowing upwards, which is what we want. So we'll change the gravity to minus 0.6. We'll change the resistance to 0.1. The resistance being the air resistance that the fire is encountering as it's blowing. And then the direction, we'll leave it like that. And then the extra, let's change it to 1.5. Okay, the extra controlling the width of the fire. But for our liking, we'll change it to 1.5. So if we scrub now through the timeline, this is what we already have. This is already looking pretty good. Lastly, we need to change the settings for the particle. So we'll twirl down the particle settings. We change the particle type to shaded and faded sphere. We'll change the birth size to 0.37. This is really where the fiery looks comes in. We change the depth size to 0.84. What each of these is, birth size basically is what's the size of the particles as they begin to explode, okay, or to burn up. So basically they'll start from that size and then they go all the way to that particular size. We change the size variation to 100. We change the opacity map to fade in and out. And then we change the maximum opacity to 27. Okay, so we can see we have a very good fiery effect taking place. Once more, if it happens that our particles are being emitted from too far below, we can simply change the producer button. So this positions the fire at a different point in time. Okay, So yeah, now it's being emitted from a much better place. Next we need to work on the look of our fire. So we need to correct the color of our fire. So we go to Effects, Color Correction, Levels. All we need to change is the input white to 103, and already that gives us a major glow, and then the gamma we'll change it to 0.67. So already this is such a burning fire that I believe when we compose it, it will give us just the right results that we're looking for. And I hope your monitor is not burning as we speak, because this is such an intense fire. I can hardly look at mine right now. What we need to do next is create the base fire, which will be at the base of our main fire, which is going up. So that base fire will more or less take the shape of a circle. Okay, it will be the fire which is mainly interacting with our grass in our final composition. Okay, so we'll select the main fire and simply drag it to a new comp, and then we'll rename it to base fire. Okay, with the base fire selected, let's change, or rather let's play around with its settings. Firstly, we'll change the composition settings to 720 by 576. Click OK, and then we'll select our main fire, or rather let's do this. We are going to go to the main fire composition, click on the fire layer, and then go to edit, copy, and then go to the base fire, select the main fire from there, and then press delete on the keyboard, and then go to edit, paste. So this should bring our fire settings, so that we don't need to create a fire from scratch again. And then we'll select our fire in our base fire composition. Let's change our composition settings to 720 by 576. Okay, that's okay. We are going to change the position of the cannon under the particle playground, so that it can be in the middle of our composition. So now the fire will be emitted from the middle. And then we'll change the barrel radius to 260, and then particles per second to 350, direction 0 degrees. So already we should have a fire spread all over our composition there. Okay, and then velocity, we can change it to maybe 86. Velocity randomness, let's change it, or rather let's leave it like that. Maybe we can bring it down to 60. And then the color, let's leave it to dark gray. And then particle radius, we'll change it to 5. Okay, and then we'll go down to the gravity settings. Let's change the force from 0 to -10. So what we end up with now is simply fire flowing, like as we can see in the composition. And it's important to change the direction to 0, so that right now all the fire does is burn within itself, as you can see there. Okay, another thing to change will be the mask. We are going to select our fire layer and then press M on the keyboard to bring its mask setting, and then we'll delete the mask which is already there. Go to the drawing tools and then select the elliptical mask tool. Double click for it to give us an elliptical mask shape. As you can see, it's the wrong one. We're going to press Ctrl Z. We are going to try to change the scaling of our solid layer here. So let's, instead of moving it, manipulating it like that, we simply select it and then press Ctrl Alt F on the keyboard. So that should squash our fire into our composition. So once that is done, we'll double click on the elliptical mask tool, and then press MM on the keyboard, and then increase the feather to help us composite our mask in whichever composition we may have, and then increase the expansion. Okay, and then finally, as we did before, we need to bring about blurriness. So we are going to change the first blur setting to 8. Okay, or maybe 15, or yeah, 15 was better as before. Maybe 8. Yeah. Next, we're going to do as we did for our previous main fire by adding a particle system to it. Okay. So we'll go to our base fire and then select the fire layer and then go to Effect, Simulation, and then CC Particle System 2. Okay. We'll change the birth rate to 10, or this time let's change it to 15. Longevity, let's change it to 1.5, or rather to 1. And then let's change the producer. We're going to, the main thing here is to change the producer's position so that it can be in the middle. Okay, like that. Okay. The radius, we are going to change the X radius to 0 and the Y radius to 7. Okay. We go down to the physics. It's very important to leave the animation to explosive. Okay. Then we'll change the velocity to 0.5. The velocity, of course, controlling the speed at which the particles will be emitted, or we can change it to 1 if we prefer, but let's leave it at 0.5. Inherent velocity, we'll change it to minus 0.34. And then gravity, very important to turn off the gravity completely, because the base fire will just be emitting from some sort of a flow. So there's basically there'll basically be no flowing upwards or sideways of the fire. Okay. And then we change the resistance to 1.8. The resistance of course being the air resistance. And then let's change the extra to 1.5. Okay. Next we need to bring up the particle settings, and then we'll change the particle time to shaded and faded sphere as before. Birth size will change to 0.62. Depth size change to 0.84. Size variation will leave at 50%. And then we change the opacity map to fade in and out. Maximum opacity will be changed to 40. Okay. So we need once more to color correct our fire. So we go to Effect, Color Correction, Levels. And then we'll change once more the inputs white to 103, and then we'll change our gamma to 1.04. Okay. Once more, this gives us the fiery effect that we want to achieve, as we did in the previous one. So I think the input white at 67 is much better. Okay. So we end up with something like that. Okay, this really looking good. Next we'll need to create the solid to act as our ripple that we'll have at the end, the ripple of the fire that will be emitted as the fire explodes. So for that we're going to make a new composition. We'll go to composition, new composition. We're going to call it the ripple, and then we're going to change the width to let's say 600, the height also to 600, and then make sure that the pixel aspect ratio is square pixels. Okay, because we want a perfect circle. We're going to design a perfect circle now. Click OK, and then once in the ripple composition, we are going to layer, new, solid. Make sure you tick on click or rather you select on make comp size, and then change the color to yellow. Okay, click OK, and then we are going to double click on elliptical mask tool. So already that gives us a mask shape to work from. Okay, next we are going to create another solid within our ripple composition. We go to layer, new, solid, and then we'll change its color to black. Okay, click OK. Once more, double click on the elliptical mask tool, and then let's change its scale down. Okay,